also daughter. Like you're being pulled in a lot of different directions. And I think for me, what I really, really try to balance, at least for myself, is like, I can actually do it all, but not at the same time, right? Like,
I love that reframe.
Sometimes I'm actually just going to be like a great mom and kind of shit at everything else. And sometimes I'm going to be super good at what I'm doing at work and other things are going to fall to the side. So it's like that everything all of the time that has been helpful for me. And so many of the moms that I have talked to in the last few years, like, I think that's really, for me, the release valve of like not having to do it all exactly at the same time, but also being super mindful and cognizant of the fact that, like, in our organization, I certainly, with my team at least, talk about the help that I need. I talk about the resources and how I'm trying to make it work, because I do think there is a bit of a stigma around, you can do it, but you need help around you, right? And like, you're going to lean in and lead out on certain things, and you have a ton of balls in the air at all times. But, on some days, certain balls are made of glass and certain balls are made of rubber. And on a different day, it actually might be totally switched. And so that's what I think we're trying to really help equip women and families and working parents just really across the board of like, how can you get the help you need when you need it? I think you're totally right, particularly around getting women's participation in the labor market.
Yeah.
COVID definitely pressure tested that. And I think that you saw a big chunk of women in the workforce leave, right? And like, I understand that, right? Like, I fully understand that. And I think what it created were also it did create some flexibility in working environments that frankly didn't exist before. And so now I think you're feeling a bit of that stress again, where return to work is a big topic, right? Hybrid work is a big topic. And so making sure that you have the flexibility in your return to work policies so that, okay, maybe people are coming back. You gotta be set up to keep them there too, right? And like driving that engagement. There is some magic that happens in person. Like, I'll be the first to admit that. For sure. But you need flexibility when you need flexibility. And that, I feel like, really, really is the key, and something I hear HR leaders like constantly struggling with about like, how do I create these policies that, great, we bring people back into the workforce, or we bring people back in really high rates post having a baby, right? We have a really generous parental leave policy. That's awesome, but we want them to come back, right? Yeah. And so it's great.
How are you supporting them when they
come back?
Yeah. That's and so I feel like is usually missing. People are like, yeah, we have this like 4-month paternity leave policy. And like my follow-up question is always like, okay, well, what's like the onboarding when they come back?
And like, it's not just the onboarding for that individual. It's like, what does the onboarding look like for their leaders and their managers? I think that's actually way more commonplace today, of like having managers be well trained on what does that ramp off look like into parental leave? What does that ramp on look like? But that's also not the only life stage where people need some flexibility and some grace, frankly. And so like embedding that into more of a norm, I think is certainly part of the conversation that I hear from benefits and HR leaders.
Yeah. I went down this is like deeply personal, so I'll just preface it with sharing that. I went down the rabbit hole of like trying to figure out if I wanted to freeze eggs, what that would look like, and what that meant for me. Just being a mother, I think, is like the most beautiful thing. And also I think the hardest job on earth. I joke that like HR is the hardest job. No, I think being a mother is, because there's so much that is pressure that is put on women and mothers to, like we said, do it all with like such little support. So seeing that there are solutions popping up and even more HR teams that care about that support, I think just like give me hope for the future. Whereas like in the past, I was like, I can't be a mother and a career woman. Like I can't do that. It always felt like just like black and white to me. And now I feel like there's so many more opportunities and like understanding in the workforce of what does it actually mean to be a mom and a woman in the workplace? Which is like a
Totally.
discussion that cannot be overlooked.
Yeah, and not only what does it mean to you, Hiba, to be a mom in the workplace, but like how do you actually parse out environments where it is not just like bare minimum acceptance of you being a working mother, but where can you find a place that would be celebrated, right? Like moms hustle. I agree with you. Moms is like, that's the hardest job.
Yeah.
But moms are very efficient people. And so personally, you know, I manage a bunch of moms myself, and like they're some of my best team members because they don't have time to waste, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, I got to get this done. And I love that. And I'm like that too, right? But I think that's what we see, particularly millennials, Gen Z. They're very cognizant of making decisions around where they choose to go work based on the types of benefits and policies that are in place. Like you talked about freezing your eggs. And I think, you know, it's not so far in the past where a fertility benefit or funds available to help you think about doing something like freezing your eggs, like that. It wasn't that long ago where that was, I would say, kind of rare, you know?
It was just Google, right? Wasn't Google one of the first places to be like, we'll pay for you to freeze your eggs? Work here longer.
Exactly. And it's like, that is, by and large, like that is becoming more and more of table stakes and expectations for individuals as they explore where to work, right? And it's not just because they want access to the financial support. That is certainly a piece of it. These things are expensive to do, right? Yeah. Freezing your eggs is not cheap. Going through IVF is not cheap. And IVF, for example, like the cost to do IVF is more than most American families have in their savings accounts, right? It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's not just getting access to the financial reimbursement or the financial resources for these family building and just sort of reproductive healthcare journeys, but it's about like, what does that reimbursement represent, right? That represents that the employer is a type of employer where, you know, it's more than just okay to have a child, right? And I think that's what people are looking for. I think we see, you know, like 70% of employers, 75% of employers saying that these types of benefits are super important in talent attraction and talent retention. And then employees equally, I think, just marginally less, saying like they will make decisions on jobs on whether or not they have these benefits in place.
For sure. I think you said it earlier. It's like table stakes at this point.